I'm Dr. David Gordon, Mayor of the City of Burbank. Welcome to the Mayor's Show. In this edition, we're going to take you inside the Burbank Police Department and meet the men and women who keep us safe on a day in and day out basis. Come on, let's meet with the Chief of Police. Chief LaChasse, thank you for helping us out today to get an inside look at the Burbank Police Department. And we're here today inside Chief LaChasse's office at the Burbank Police Fire Headquarters. And I wanted to ask you, Chief, when you first came on board some 5 years ago, the department was facing a number of challenges, the city was facing challenges, and you were brought on to address some of these. Can you tell us what you found when you first arrived, and was there sort of a plan or attempt to straighten things out? Tell us what was going on.
Certainly, in the aftermath of the Portos investigation, there were several state and federal criminal investigations. We were also facing several civil suits, and there was a certain amount of dissension in the department. So we very quickly rallied the troops, talked to virtually every member of the department as well as the public, all communities of the public, and determined what their needs were, what direction they wanted to go, what the priorities were. That ultimately led us to the strategic plan, a copy of which I have here. And this is a strategic plan that started as a reform package, and then we incorporated all the other needs that we thought we could make the best possible police department by following each tenet in the plan.
And this was not something that just happened all of a sudden. It was a plan that was developed over time after examining different procedures and testing different procedures and refining it, and it's sort of a living document.
It is a living document, and what's very good about it is the fact that we have Mr. Giannaco from the Office of Independent Review, and we also have our police commission that have endorsed the plan, but they also give us a report card to make sure we are living by each and separate item in that strategic plan.
You served in a number of roles in your some 3 decades in the Los Angeles Police Department, including reaching the rank of deputy chief. How did that experience previously prepare you for what you encountered when you arrived here?
Well, in the particular environment in Los Angeles, you're constantly facing challenges, and a lot of those challenges result in success, and some of those challenges result in failures. And what you learn from the failures is that you've got to immediately regroup, retool, rebuild, motivate, stimulate, and that's certainly something that needed to be done to the Burbank Police Department. So that experience was very invaluable.
Now that you've been at the helm for some 5 years and you've assembled a team of people to work with you as a command staff, can you sort of describe or characterize progress that's been made from where you first came on and where you see things are headed in the future?
Certainly, what we want to do is be the best that we can be, and everybody's bought into that, including the city council. But also what we want to do is develop to the extent that people from other law enforcement agencies come to us to see what is the best. And to give you some examples, and I know you're going to be talking about later on, we've got CALEA, which is the Commission on the Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies. You can also look at the certification of our communications center, what we've done with mental health. We've had people from all over the country come to our department to harvest what I would consider to be best practices, and that is how to deal with mental health issues. Same thing with our new Ford Explorer, the vehicle that we're driving. That was actually a team of police officers as well as people from other city departments that got together, collaborated, and designed really a state-of-the-art vehicle. So we can give you a lot of examples like that, but we truly have arrived to the position of being one of the best departments locally. And again, what we want to do is stay there. So continuous improvement is what it's all about. Our people are committed to doing that. I give credit to the council for supporting us, but also to the tremendous men and women of the Burbank Police Department.
And it sounds like these types of accomplishments are going to do a great deal for our morale of our men and women who are serving the police department, and also to recruit people in the future when they see an agency that's setting the tempo and the pace for the future.
That is correct, but one of the big beneficiaries, of course, is the public, and we've got a tremendous relationship with the public. We have great partnerships, and when you look at the various measures by which we measure our performance, we are doing exceedingly well in reducing crime, improving our response times. And you look at the approbation surveys out there, and our men and women have done a tremendous job in delivering service, and the public recognizes that.
Right, and just one final thing, because I think it's very important. When we first met, I asked you if you had some guiding principles that you would go by, and you held out a little book. You have it with you today.
That's a copy of the United States Constitution, and what we do is we give this to all our new hires, sworn in civilian. We talk about it, but this is our guiding light. We need to stick to what the Constitution says, and I'm very proud to say that our people really embrace the constitutional provisions.
You know, Chief, as I've been walking through the building, I couldn't help but notice a number of banners on the walls in the building with different statements. Like, this is right outside your office and some of the other corridors. Could you tell us a little bit about these values that have been put on the wall?
Yes, we're very happy with the collaboration that's occurred in our department. And actually, our newest mission statement core values were adopted and actually formulated by a group of sworn and civilian employees at every rank level. And we're very proud of what they were able to come up with here. And what they did is intentionally kept it short so they could keep it in their minds at all times. But we were just completed our discussion of the Constitution, and what we've done is certainly embedded that as one of our core values under respect.
That's great, and I think this is just one type of document, but I think there's other things in the building that remind people the importance of preserving the image of the department at all times.
Yes, and what one of our civilian employees did is actually came up with the concept of creating a poster with our badge, and there are different variations, but essentially it says, polish it, don't tarnish it, and each and every action really has an impact on the department.
Well, thank you, Chief. I think that goes with one of the first things you told me, which police officers are always on parade.
That's correct. That is correct.
Chief, I want to thank you very much for taking the time, and we're looking forward to continuing working closely together. Thank you. We're here now with Deputy Chief Tom Angel, 33-year veteran of the LA County Sheriff's Department, and we're in a very interesting room. And I'm wondering, Deputy Chief, if you could tell me a little bit about this room and what it's about.
Of course. As you know, the building was constructed in 1998 and occupied at that time by the police department and the fire department. And one of the true gems of the building is the museum that we're standing in here. This museum is a collaboration between the fire department and the police department in maintaining a history of both agencies. And as you look around, you can see that there are artifacts and memorabilia dating back to the 40s. Behind us is a 1949 Ford that was restored and is a replica of the 49 Ford used here in Burbank.
Chief, can you briefly explain your role in the department's command staff and describe the changes you've seen since coming on board?
Yes, I'm the deputy chief of the department. Scott LaChosse is the chief. I'm his second in command, so I pretty much manage the day-to-day operation of the organization. And having worked in that capacity in the past, I understand my role, that I need to handle much of the day-to-day operations, as I mentioned, to provide the chief the opportunity to engage in other activities that are larger in scale, such as relationships with community leaders and policymakers within the city.
Chief, drawing on your past professional experience, can you characterize how today's Burbank Police Department compares to other similarly sized departments in terms of training, equipment, personnel, morale, and community support?
Yes, we have spoken within the organization, and I've talked to colleagues outside of the organization, and I've repeatedly said that this department can be a premier organization within the state of California. It has all of the consummate pieces to put together. We need to clarify what our mission is within the community and clarify best practices within the organization. We have such great support within the community, within the city council. This is a vibrant community. Financially, we're in very, very good shape. It's just a matter of taking those traits and those resources and putting them together to a focused strategic plan.
Chief, since arriving, can you describe some of the changes you've observed since coming on the Burbank Department?
Yes. When we first got here, I don't think any of us quite recognized the significance of the department's situation. There was considerable concern about the internal operation of the organization based on some significant incidences that occurred previously. But since we've gotten here, I think we've gotten a very strong footing as to where we are and where we need to go in order to make this a premier law enforcement agency. For example, we recently completed a significant project in our policies and procedures. And in addition to that, we were CALIA accredited, which is quite an accomplishment, I believe, for an organization, particularly considering that there's 19,000 agencies in the U.S. and only 650 or so are accredited through this process. What it requires us to do is to establish and maintain best practices in law enforcement. And we have achieved that, and now it's about maintaining that level of expertise and best practices.
And that CALIA recognition was based upon actually folks coming to Burbank and observing in action what was being done and how it went and how it was run.
Absolutely. They require that we have certain policies and procedures in place and that we have accountability in the way we manage our operation, both internally and externally. And those checks and balances have to be proven to these inspectors in order to verify that we, in fact, meet those goals. We pursued the highest level of accreditation, which is nearly 500 specific requirements that we had to meet, and we, through our very hardworking staff, were able to manage that in about a 3-year period. We were finally accredited back in November of this year, and it's a very proud moment for us.
Well, Chief, I want to thank you for taking the time to explain some of the important roles you play here and what we're seeing here in this room, and also some of the achievements and accomplishments of the department. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate your time, and thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Thank you. We're here with Captain Michael Albanese in the mid-level section of the Burbank Police Department. And Captain, can you tell us a little bit about just where we are in the police department? And we're outside your office here, the location of your office, its significance.
It is. I'm adjacent to the Watch Commander's office, and across from the Watch Commander's office is the Communication Center. And behind my office is one of the report writing rooms. And this hallway right here is the thoroughfare in and out on the second level. So you have a lot of officers, supervisors that will access this area when they park the police vehicles in and out. It was important for me when I first got here to totally immerse myself into the organization, not knowing that many folks here, and having an office that folks would have to go by and therefore engage with me and I with them. And it was a great way to totally immerse myself in the organization, to get to know our officers here, and also that they knew where I was at. My door's open. I was available for a chat or something related to the operational side.
And you mentioned earlier that there's a report writing room nearby as well. Can you tell me the significance of the report writing room?
Well, it's one of two, but behind my office is the large report writing room where officers will do their reports. If there are juvenile arrestees and or someone that is being detained for a mental health hold, typically they're staged there, the officers are there, and it's just literally right around the corner from my office.
Captain, why don't we go inside your office and chat a little further?
You're more than welcome. The door is always open.
Thank you. Captain, your professional career spans some 37 years with the LAPD, and then you joined Burbank PD, heading the patrol division. Can you explain to us just what that entails?
Well, I have been in law enforcement since 1971, and I've always been on the operational side. So when I came to Burbank Police Department, I was assigned to oversee all the patrol operations, which includes not only all the patrol uniformed officers that you see, I also oversee the traffic bureau and also some of our specialized units, which is the K-9, air support, and then we have a SWAT team that is a collateral duty. So anybody in uniform generally works for me on a day-to-day basis.
And Captain, you helped create the mental health evaluation team that we now have in play here, and it has really received good support from the community. Can you clarify just what was involved with that and what your role has been?
Well, my role was initially when I would review reports, I saw what I believed was an inordinate number of mental health holds that involved the same folks. And I looked at the way that we responded and managed mental health related calls. So I made a proposal to the chief to introduce a co-response model, and what that means is it's a sworn officer and a mental health clinician that is a full-time LA County Department of Mental Health employee, and together that they would be first responders and or advise, consult, facilitate any type of hold that had a mental health underpinning. We initiated that program April 30th of 2012. And I have to give high marks to not only the City Council, but also LA County Department of Mental Health, because it was proffered to them February 22nd, and then 2 months later, it was operational. Our mental health evaluation team comprises of Dr. Jennifer Hunt, who is a clinical psychologist, full-time employee with the Department of Mental Health, and Officer Christina Sanchez Suarez, who is a full-time officer here. So together, when they are working, they respond to and manage mental health-related calls.
Well, thank you for explaining that. It seems that this is a great expanded scope and range of our abilities here to serve those who need mental health services instead of just arresting them like anybody else.
Absolutely. And it's not only the initial contact, intervention, evaluation, and placement, but it's post-incident. And what they have done is that our post-incident, where we had what we would call habitual offenders, has been mitigated substantially. So typically, if it's a one incident encounter, the Met team follows up with not only the subject but family members and also other medical personnel to make sure they're getting proper treatment so that there's a successful outcome.
And I also understand it saves a lot of our officers time, because if we didn't have this sort of resource, we'd have to transport them to some other facility, and I believe it took 2 officers at a time to transport these folks to other facilities.
You're absolutely right. It still requires that time to place an individual, but by having the Met team available to oversee, facilitate the intake process, and also look at other placement, and that's the key, is another facility instead of the traditional county facilities, so that they get sustained treatment instead of short-term treatment.
That's great. And one final on this point, and that is, do other police departments the size of Burbank's typically have this type of resource available to them?
It depends. Our model has been looked at by other agencies similar in size. For the most part, they don't. Pasadena does, Long Beach does, the big cities, LA City, LA County. But for Burbank, we're kind of a trendsetter there as far as introducing this model, implementing this model that has been very effective as far as how we manage individuals that have mental health disorders or mental health problems or having some type of episode.
Thank you so much for clarifying this. One other important item for me is I understand we recently obtained the brand new police helicopter. You mentioned air support in one of the comments you made. Can you tell us a little bit about this new helicopter added to our services, and how is that going to augment and help our police officers in the field?
Well, let me start by saying I actually had the privilege of flying to Mesa, Arizona to get the keys to the helicopter. So it was myself, one of our pilots and the supervisor from Glendale, and they actually had a ceremony there. We were in one of the large hangars. They had our helicopter on display, and all of the employees at MD Aircraft attended the ceremony. There was over 200 folks that attended the ceremony to hand off the keys to the helicopter. So it was important to them, and certainly important to us, receiving a expensive, high-performance piece of equipment. But what it does for us, it gives us a state-of-the-art helicopter with all the avionics, the contemporary state-of-the-art avionics that makes us more effective and efficient to respond to call for services where the point of view is from above instead of below. They are able to traverse the city without traffic, and they are a huge asset not only for police operations, but for a victim in distress. Even though they can be a nuisance at times, but to hear that aircraft overhead is a good feeling, because that means there are more folks on the way.
Well, Captain, I want to really thank you for taking the time to go over a few important elements of your responsibilities in your department here, and I look forward to continuing working with you. We're here at Priscilla's Coffee Shop with Officer Joshua Kendrick with the Burbank Police Department for another edition of Coffee with a Cop. This is my first time I've been with Coffee with a Cop, and we're going to talk to Officer Kendrick about community relations and outreach, something that Chief LaChasse has emphasized, of reaching out to the community for better relations. Officer Kendrick, thank you for joining us today. We wanted to ask you a little bit about the department's outreach to the community outreach programs. This is one, Coffee with a Cop. Can you tell us a little bit about Coffee with a Cop?
Absolutely. Mr. Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to come here. And as you mentioned, Chief LaChasse is very supportive of community outreach. We have a lot of events that we do, Shop with a Cop, Coffee with a Cop, drug take-back events, different things like that. But specifically, as you mentioned, Coffee with a Cop. It's an opportunity for us to meet with the community. There's no agenda, there's no plans, anything like that. We've been to a few different coffee places throughout the city, Priscilla's Coffee House, Noah's Bagel, Lancer's, Romancing the Bean, a few different places to open up some areas in the community that they can come and have coffee with a cop.
And what has been the response to the program? Have you had people in the community speaking about it?
The response has been very positive. We've had probably anywhere from 50 to 75 at each of the locations that we've had it at, and it's free coffee. It's one thing that we found, most people enjoy free coffee, and an opportunity to come and speak with law enforcement about any type of issue that they're having, whether it be parking problems, whether it be neighbor complaints, anything like that, and it's been a very positive experience.
And how do folks find out about when there's going to be a next Coffee with a Cop, and how do they participate?
We typically provide that information on our website, burbankpd.org. Social media, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, different things like that. But we try to put that information out in advance to alert the community and let them know what's coming up.
Great. Now, one of the things I hear, people always notice how diligent and how rapid the response is of the Burbank Police Department. Should a person be stopped by the police for some reason, talking on a cell phone, tinted windshield or something, what would be the best thing for them to do as the stop begins? What should the citizen do as an officer is approaching their vehicle?
That's a very good question, because it's something that always concerns us, what citizens are doing during that traffic stop. The first thing that we ask is that they pull to the curb when safe. And as they're doing that, they can put on their turn indicator, whatever they need to do in order to pull over to the curb. Once there, we ask that they roll down their windows, that they turn off their car, that they put their hands on top of the steering wheel and wait for us to approach. The last thing that we want to have happen is for people to be fumbling around in their car. They think that they're getting their insurance, their driver's license, their registration, things like that. As an officer approaching a car in which somebody's moving around, we're thinking a firearm, a knife, something that they're trying to arm themselves. So we ask for people just to sit. When we get to the car, we'll tell them why we stopped them. We'll explain a few things, and then we'll ask them for the information that we need.
And generally here in Burbank, you find that people are cooperative with you, or is that too general of a statement?
Very, very cooperative. But still, we find people that are thinking that they need to get their registration, their license. People tend to fumble around through their car. But again, we hope, and it would be encouraged for people just to wait for us to approach before they get those items, for safety reasons for officers.
Now, the Coffee with a Cop is one program, and I understand other organizations and agencies have adopted it successfully. But we have some other programs. You mentioned the Shop with a Cop and some others in the Citizens Academy. Can you tell us a little bit about, especially the Citizens Academy? I know you participate in that.
Absolutely. Again, Chief LaChaza is very proactive in us doing community outreach. In a time where there's other agencies that are scaling back on their community outreach for whatever reason, budgetary concerns, whatever that might be, Chief LaChaza is very proactive in our community outreach. So recently we had Shop with a Cop. We were able to find 25 underprivileged kids through the Boys and Girls Club. We had a donation from the Burbank Noon Rotary, and we were able to take 25 kids shopping at Target. Each kid was given a $100 gift card, and in that $100 gift card they were able to shop for whatever they wanted for Christmas. Some of these kids bought presents for mom, for dad, for brother, for sister. Some of them bought things for themselves. And while they were doing that, officers, cadets, explorers, and Burbank Police Department personnel were able to shop with them. We also have other events. We do drug take-back events twice a year, where people can bring their unused, expired, old medications to the police department to get rid of it. Because people have a tendency to flush it down the toilet, it gets into our waters, people put it in their trash, sometimes people go through their trash, and sometimes they leave it in their home, which is very dangerous for young people. Another significant event that we do is called a Community Academy. It's done twice a year. The next one will be coming up in March, and obviously people can check our website, burbankpd.org, on upcoming the specific date, but it's an opportunity for people to learn all the ins and outs of the police department. We have 9 weeks in which we go through and explain all the ins and outs of the police department. We go over the law, we will go over case management by detectives. We have a traffic person come in from our motor squad that talks about traffic issues and things that they can be aware of. We have somebody come in from our forensics unit, somebody come in from our communication center talking about 911 information that they need when they call into the police department. Somebody that talks about use of force, somebody from our SWAT team, our K-9 unit, our air support. It's an outstanding thing for people that want to learn a little bit more about the police department.
And that program, the Community Academy, is open to who, actually?
Burbank residents and people that work in Burbank.
Age restrictions?
18 and up.
18 and up.
And our last Community Academy class that we had that finished up about a month and a half ago, we had 66 people that registered for it, and we finished with 55, which was an all-time high. We had never had an amount that high.
Does that take place usually in the evenings or during the day?
In the evenings.
In the evening.
Typically a Wednesday or Thursday night, 6:30 p.m. till about 9 o'clock.
At the police headquarters?
At the police department.
Okay, very good. And I understand that you also give that program in different languages. Can you mention something about that?
Yes, we've done it twice in Spanish. We've had an Armenian class, and we've had one for the deaf or hard of hearing. And those are, again, an opportunity for people for whatever they have, whether they are of different ethnicity, whether they have hearing loss, anything like that. We have interpreters that are provided from the city and come for our deaf class and did that. This last class, we didn't have enough for a full class, but we had 5 participants that were deaf. So again, the city provided a couple of interpreters that were able to come to the class. They also came to the class for the full 9 weeks. They received a certificate, but they participated as well with the deaf participants.
And again, for someone who might want to sign up for the next Community Academy, what would be the approach? Is this posted on the website?
Yes, it is. If you go to burbankpd.org, Community Outreach, and then the Community Academy, it'll give you some information about that. You can click on it there. There's an application that you can download, fill it out, mail it back in, email it to me, J. Kendrick, Kendrick, at burbankca.gov, or you can drop it off at the police department front counter.
And when they do meet, is it a couple of hours? How much time is it?
It's about 6 in the evening, 6:30 till about 9 o'clock for 9 weeks, one night a week.
Is there anything else that you think the community should know as far as the efforts that have been made? We're trying to hold out that the police are always there for our safety with very quick response time, very responsiveness. We want to, the chief has used the term that we're always on parade, meaning that you're up for inspection by the public. And is there something you have seen that's changed? You've been with the department for a number of years. I didn't ask you how many years you've been with the department.
Almost 10 years now.
10 years. So you've seen a number of changes occurring. Can you, in your words, describe what you see today in the department as where it's been? Are we making progress in terms of community outreach and improvements? I know we have improved technology with our new police vehicles, with our new helicopter, our new communications. But from your point of view as an officer, are we making progress as we going ahead?
In my position, community outreach and media relations, we are going above and beyond where we had ever gone before. Back in the day, police departments, they didn't put out much information. A lot of things were close to the vest. This chief has allowed us to go above and beyond. We have a new, vibrant website in which we have information that is so helpful to the community if they would just check it out. Social media. Few departments back in the day had social media. I know social media is more prevalent now, but communication out to the public wasn't as positive and as popular back in the day. We're putting things out consistently on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, different things like that to let the community know about events, about maybe a traffic accident that's changing traffic issues to where they can go around it. So we've seen a significant increase in followers and likes and different things like that for those social media platforms. So in regards to something like that, our chief is very supportive of community outreach and getting information out to the community. Another thing would be neighborhood watch. We have neighborhood watch groups that we send information to. If there's anybody that's ever interested in a neighborhood watch group for their area, you can get in touch with me at the police department, and I will come out, make a presentation about Neighborhood Watch. We put you on our list, so when we send out news releases, community bulletins, alerts, different things like that, there's more people that now are aware of that.
And once a year, we actually have the National Night Out, which I participated in a number of times, and it's been very well received. Do you feel the community is becoming more aware of the services and more comfortable approaching and speaking with the police department? Have you seen some change there?
I hope so. I sure hope so. Because I think, like National Night Out, Police Fire Service Day, when we have these events, we have a lot of people that come. And the attitude is always positive. Back to the Community Academy, in the 3.5 years I've been in this position, I've never had somebody that gets to the end of that Community Academy and goes, this was a waste of my time. The feedback and the atmosphere has always been positive. So for Neighborhood Watch, for National Night Out, for Police Fire Service Day, it's such a positive atmosphere, and that's from the community, and it just exemplifies and reestablishes we have a great community here in Burbank.
Officer Kendrick, I want to take a minute to thank you. It's been wonderful talking with you today. Thank you. This coffee's been great. I toast the good work you and the department does every day, and look forward to continuing this dialogue.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We're here in the forensics lab where the police department is using technology to reduce crime. And we're here, joining us is with Captain Dennis Cremens in the investigation division. And Captain, can you tell us a little bit about your background that led up to your current position?
Well, I spent 36 years as a member of the Los Angeles Police Department, and probably half of that was as a working detective or detective supervisor. And when I retired, I was the captain of Robbery Homicide Division. And so it was a more natural fit that I would be here in this assignment.
And here in the forensics labs, can you tell us a little bit about what goes on in this room, in this part of the police department, and how that information is used to help you reduce crime?
Certainly. We have a staff of analysts or forensic specialists, and they collect, they analyze, and they document evidence, and it's often used in court after it's been prepared and analyzed.
We're talking about things like blood samples, DNA, fingerprints.
All of those things. Here, particularly, is blood samples, items that have blood on it. Fingerprints is probably the biggest thing we do. Photographic evidence, and for DNA, we share a regional laboratory with the city of Glendale.
And does forensics include things that are captured, for example, on a cell phone or images on a handheld phone? Or
Absolutely. We have images on cell phones, on computers. We have a forensic computer lab adjacent to this actual facility here. So all those things are used ultimately to support prosecutions in court.
And apart from what you can do right here, if additional work is needed, do you have outside resources you can call upon if you need additional research or work being done?
Absolutely. We can always call upon the county, our partners in Glendale, or even the FBI.
Great. And another element that I hear is very much in use these days is predictive analytics, which help foretell where problems might arise. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Certainly. Predictive analytics are essentially it's a mathematical analysis of data, and it predicts where, in this case, where we think crime is going to occur, and not only where it will occur, but probably why it will occur. For example, weather can impact things, where an ATM is located, where we have any specific type of crime causation, and we can interdict it in a timely manner.
And you've been utilizing this sort of information, predictive analytics, forensic information, DNA, this sort of information. And have you been able to measure and see real results coming from the utilization of this type of technology?
Our best measure is the lack of crime, and so for about fourth year running, we're down in crime over the previous year. So we're at 1% less than we were last year, and that might not seem like a lot in terms of large numbers, but we have small numbers of crimes, particularly violent crime, in Burbank. So we're very fortunate with that. But we try to make impacts on property crime.
Captain Cremens, I really want to thank you for taking a few minutes and explaining us a little bit about what goes on here in the Forensics Lab and the Information Technology Department, and we appreciate it. Thank you. We're here with Captain Ron Caruso, who oversees the Support Services Division of the Burbank Police Department. Captain, can you tell us a little bit about what the Support Services Division does?
Thank you, Mayor. The Support Services Division supports the other divisions of the Police Department. It includes the Dispatch Center, records, the jail, building maintenance, property and evidence, and the animal shelter.
Captain, we're in the communication center here. Can you tell us something about this room, what is done here, and who works here?
Sure. We have a civilian staff. We always have 3 members on at all times. We have one person who is receiving the bulk of the incoming calls, emergency and non-emergency. We have a dispatcher who is communicating with all of the field units.
Hello, 911. What is your emergency?
And then we have a relief person who provides overlap to those 2 positions. So when you're calling the police in Burbank, these are the folks that you're talking to. They're helping you get the resources that you need.
And this is an ongoing service 24/7.
It never closes 24/7, 365.
Captain, I understand the Burbank Police Department is the first agency in California and the third in the nation to become or meet the criteria necessary to become members of the Missing Kids Readiness Project. Can you tell us a little bit about that project and what it means to have achieved that accomplishment?
Sure, Mayor. The program is a partnership between the Burbank Police Department and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. By becoming members, the Burbank Police Department has received training for all of its first responders, as well as all of our dispatch personnel, and myself included, as the administrator of the communication center, or with procedures for how to respond to missing children or abducted children. As well, we have updated our policy to include all of the standards and best practices as required by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And basically what it means is that we're better prepared to serve the people of Burbank in case of a missing child or an abducted child.
And does this tie into what we see on the freeway sometimes, the signs that report a car with possibly a license number that someone has abducted a child or something? Is that what we see on the freeways as part of that program?
Yes, sir. The Amber Alerts that you see on the freeway are a very effective tool to help recover missing or abducted children, but also it's supported by the valuable training and the partnership that we have with the National Center.
So, Captain, if you could, give us an idea what will happen if a call for a child in danger comes into the center here.
Sure, Mayor. Following the training that they've received from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the dispatcher, the call taker, would use a flip chart similar to this, where it guides them through asking the proper questions to get the kinds of information that we need right away to help us find the child and to get the proper resources responding to help find the child.
And this would probably include all sorts of emergency services, fire, police, other services that might be needed.
Whatever is needed, we have all kinds of resources at our fingertips. It also includes air support, other agencies such as the Highway Patrol, the freeway signs, as we've mentioned before. So it's all encompassing as trying to get the word out when time is of the essence, and that's really the key.
Captain, I really want to thank you for taking your time to explain what happens in the Support Services Division, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to spotlight our very valuable employees. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. I'm here with Josephine Wilson, and although a civilian employee of the Burbank Police Department, her job is critical to keeping sworn officers on the street. Josephine, can you tell us a little bit about your responsibilities here at the police department?
As a civilian, I am part of the police department command staff, and I'm in charge of the budget and finance, and also as the administrative liaison for the department. And I'm also in charge of the federal grants and state grants to get more resources to the department.
Right, and that grand part of your job is very important to help fund special activities in the department. And can you tell us a little bit about the type of grants that you applied for and the results of your applications? Have we gotten some grants that have helped the police department?
Oh, certainly. Safety services are a large portion of the city's general fund. However, in order for us to provide the level of service, the high quality of service for our community, we still have to work hard to get additional resources for the department. We have been very successful with obtaining both federal and state grants. We also partner with our local organizations and our communities. And yes, we do accept and encourage donations from the public. And this is typically for resources or special programs such as our K-9 unit, the Police Fire Museum, or our Explorer program. And just to talk a little bit about our successes, we have been able to equip our police officers on the street with body armor and personal protective equipment that they have in their vehicles. We also have been able to implement some software programs such as the predictive policing and crime view dashboard application. I'm sure you have heard a little bit about it. It allows us to be able to develop mission-oriented deployment for our officers in the field. We have also instituted some critical operations such as our high-tech crime unit. It allows us to do a forensic examination of computers and electronics so we can solve our crimes very quickly. But for the most part, what has been also huge is training. Training is a huge component for law enforcement, and we have been able to avail ourselves of a lot of training opportunities ranging from tactical operations and emergency and disaster response.
And you've been in this position for a number of years now, but from the time you first came on board to now, do you feel we've made progress in these areas? It sounds like we're doing a lot of things today that maybe we weren't doing a few years ago.
That is absolutely correct. We have been very successful. We have been working hard, and we're definitely moving in the right direction.
Well, Josephine, I want to really thank you for taking some time to explain in a little more detail the things you do to really support the police department today. And I just really want you to know how much we appreciate it, because it sounds like the things you're doing are just essential for the work that's being done here.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Well, that does it for this edition of the Mayor's Show. We hope you enjoyed it. If you liked what you saw, be sure to share the link with someone you know. Until next time, this is Dr. David Gordon, Mayor of the City of Burbank. Thank you for watching.
You've been watching Part 1 of The Mayor's Show with Dr. David Gordon, where he takes us on a tour of the Burbank Police Department. Look for Part 2 on the Burbank channel and on the Burbank channel on YouTube, when Mayor Gordon shows us a new police car and how new technology is making the job on patrol more effective, followed by a look inside the Burbank City Jail. That's in Part 2 of the Mayor's Show tour of the Burbank Police Department.